living in the moment, and the moment is the future.
Welcome to Spread Talk with Pam
and John,
also known as The Calm.
Before the Storm.
Our purpose is to elevate the conversation and amplify special education resources.
And our why is about making the impossible possible.
So John, let's take a look at the episodes that we've done over this past year.
So when you think back to this year, we've released 13 episodes. And so, man, it's just crazy to think. And it seems like it's been more than a year, honestly, since we made this a collaborative group. And so, you know, even thinking about back into season 2, when Pam, we started doing a lot of the networks in the tail end of season 1 and the beginning of season 2. And then we season 3 was the season to really say, hey, let's try to get every, representatives from every technical assistance leadership network on SPEDTalk to highlight the resources, the supports, the cool stuff coming out of our statewide technical assistance networks. And so I want to say, when you look back to things like Inclusion in Texas, the Inclusion Network, and those may have been just before season 3. Let's check dyslexia. Season 3, episode 1. We kicked it off with dyslexia. That seems like a lifetime ago. Yeah.
When you've done these and you're looking at them each year, do you have a theme that you carry each year? Like, for example, in this case, you wanted to hit all of the networks, but was that the intent or your vision when this first started?
And Pam, I'll definitely jump in on that. But I think when we started, it wasn't so much like, hey, let's have a theme for the season. We kind of evolved into that. And it was, at the beginning, we were hitting liaison colleagues. We were highlighting resources coming out, of our colleagues at ESCs. And then I think pretty quickly we landed on, through the liaison work, the fact that we met in Austin monthly. We had venues with TEA, with the technical assistance networks, with those departments, with review and support as that was evolving. We've had Justin Porter, we've had Ramonda, we've had Jacob Klett. And so I think it's just been one of those things that it's evolved a little bit over time. And when we land, I think we finally realized, hey, we definitely need to hit every, not just one or two, because I knew a person in this network and we were a little more familiar with this one, but we really need to highlight all of our technical assistance networks on this platform. And so that kind of evolved, I think, Monica, to answer your question. It wasn't necessarily the intent up front that hey, we're going to have a theme every year. Let's fit them within this theme. It was, okay, where are we at? Where are the stories? Where are we moved to kind of to highlight resources and stories? And then we landed on the technical assistance networks, reached out to Justin Porter and Jennifer Patterson and said, hey, we were thinking about going kind of this route and trying to really highlight all of the networks, not just one or two here. And they said, we think that'd be a great deal. Why don't maybe we could help support you in putting you in contact with some of those that maybe you don't already have a contact set up in.
And I'm thinking about viewership. We're always talking about that. And I'm just spitting ideas. So I'm thinking, I love the thematic thing because our audience are educators and we live for themes. I mean, that's kind of what we do in our work, and we like to see things through. We have a theme. Let's say the theme, let's say this year it happens to be adults, young adults who went through our program and are now successful in the workforce. And we have 1 or 2 questions that get asked in every single segment. And so people have to come in because they're like, oh, those are great questions. Those are questions that impact my work. I need to know the answers to those because that's going to affect how I'm going to help my students to get to that place. So I'm chiming in, and then, oh my gosh, that was a great segment. What's the next kid going to say, or a young adult? I'm chiming in, something that keeps them having, you watch Netflix and you're watching a certain series, you have to get to the next one because there's that theme, there's that content that's bringing you in. And I'm thinking, I don't know if that would be something that might help our viewership, if that's something we can try. And again, I know very little about podcasts, so I don't want to do anything that, could set us back, but maybe that could be a way that we could open up our viewership and really get them hungry to come back each and every episode. Like, I have to see the next one because this is a really important theme to me. I'm excited about it. And those 2 questions that got answered on that last one, I want to know what this other guy's going to say. Like, I want to see how it comes out here.
Yeah, I mean, Monica, that is a good idea.
I think, it just so happened as I look at the list of episodes that we've done in the past, we focus heavily on the high school age student or the post-high school age student. A lot of our episodes, when we look at Burleson, when we look at Kami and Simon, but we really have not focused a lot on like the younger kids and what's going on for students who are, early childhood or early elementary. And that might be something we need to consider. Because we, as I said, looking at this, we're pretty heavy into the secondary students as opposed to the elementary and the preschool type students. And it'd be interesting to find out some good, even early childhood special education programs that are going on within the state. And that might be something for us to consider.
Transitional programs for those early kids. Yeah, absolutely.
Right. That's an area we have not touched at all. So that's something that really to consider. And when you asked if we planned out things, John gave you the long answer. The short answer was no. It was that we were just happy people wanted to talk with us, and we were able to just get in with people. And that's the most interesting thing about this is people are wanting to share. They're wanting people to know what's going on in special education, what they're doing, the level of success they're having, and let other people know that, hey, we're out here doing this, you can do this, or if you need some help, we're a good resource to tap into.
I just think everything is about a hook. There's so much information out in the world, period. And it's all about hooking people in. And once you get someone there, then they, they'll stay. Like, this is great content. We just haven't hooked them yet because it's hard. It's hard to get people in. How do you get the word out and get them to listen? So I don't know. I was just thinking about it last night and just thinking about viewership. I'm like, we just got to get that hook. And once we do, this thing's going to explode, because this is the kind of stuff that the world needs to hear and want to hear. I think they just haven't found it yet. Or the masses haven't found it yet, I would say.
It's the masses. Some people have found we have regular listeners.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll have people, who say, hey, I just listened to whatever episode, and my director gets so excited. She's like, oh yeah, I'm so glad you guys talked to whoever the network. It's like, she's like, now I understand what they're doing, as opposed to. Although she might have been in a meeting with them, but still didn't have a clear, vision of what it is they were talking about. And the fact that we get to ask more questions and dig a little deeper, that really helps those listeners who really try to understand what each network is doing. And how and what their roles are.
Monica, I think you hit on something that's really big, though, and that is, and it's ironic in some ways that you're saying that, because really when Pam and I started this is we're in some instances we're going into some pretty heavy content, right? I mean, this is and for people that are non-educators, some of this is high level stuff, deep into education, resources, supports, the kind of things that educators hopefully are learning about, and the resources they're drawing down and beginning to use as we transition in Texas. That greater theme being there is a positive force moving through Texas right now, and that on a global scale, individuals with disabilities have really lived lives in many instances where expectations have been set for them that have been lower than what they are personally capable of achieving by others. How might we begin to add to that conversation, keep that conversation going? Some of that, when you mentioned themes, and I think so there are some underlying themes that exist within our content that people have picked up on, but I do believe that you're right. There's a way to, at the beginning, Pam and I wanted to create kind of like just a conversation. We didn't want it to be, Pam had said, hey, there's a couple educational podcasts out there, but God, they're dry. Like, please don't make me listen to them. And we didn't want that, right? We wanted to have this fun kind of talk radio feel where we were becoming, we were educating ourselves on resources along the way, but we were highlighting and telling the stories of others. And so yeah, I just think there's so much potential to be creative in how we hook the, hook our listeners and those people that really, they're the reason we do this, is to elevate these resources, these ideas, these stories for our listeners, and so
maybe just within the year, we can come up with maybe 1 or 2 questions that get asked of every single interviewee that brings us back. That's kind of our theme, not necessarily that we have to stick on something. And you're right. I think the banter between you and Pam is what makes this really unique. Is it's very light. It's very light. It's very comfortable. It's very warm. It's not dry at all. That's what makes this different. And that's why, I say we need this viewership to explode, because I think I could see people just driving to work and hearing the voices, and just, it starts your day really well. It feels like you had a nice little coffee with a friend and you're like, okay, I'm ready to walk into the office and deal with the things that are there.
I kind of want to add into that, as far as I like the idea of coming up with some questions that we include into every episode. Let's come up with maybe the podcast questions.
I think, and Evan, jump in, because I see you've got something.
Yeah, so I think that if we talk about overarching theme or sub theme, and that one does not prevent the other from happening.
Yeah, Evan, I mean, that was great. I think that what Pam and I had talked, and I think Jen De Leon and we were talking the other day about how when we go, we look at that WIG, that wildly important goal, but then how are we circling back to what's wildly important within SPEDTalk, that we don't just become a stagnant platform that does the same thing over and over again. How do we continue to move this thing forward in a way that isn't honoring us? It's honoring those that want to invest in SPEDTalk and listen to it and maybe become a voice in SPEDTalk. And so I think that that's where, having those themes not be mutually exclusive, that we can have like an overarching theme or something that kind of defined a season in a way, and it can still be a little organic. Having some diversity in our episodes helps us, probably doesn't hurt us. There's kind of a lighthearted one with cheer abilities and people that are interested in that. Maybe we have more listenership, maybe we have less listenership, but then something rolls around and it's more in the wheelhouse of where our current listeners are, so they tune in. So we're always adding a new listener, as well as continuing to keep those current listeners plugged in and doing things like creating like those questions that people want to hear answers to, those, and even maybe how we go about deciding what those questions may be. It could be that feedback loop. We have got to get more feedback from our listenership. What are these questions people are wanting to know? What are these stems? Where, things like that.
Using the phrase like common thread, like the question is the common thread that happens in every episode.
Yeah. Common thread.
That's it. I love that. Not
thread.
so much a theme, because that kind of blocks us in too much, but that thread that weaves through that whole year. Again, just so people are just like, I got to hear that next episode, because that thread is fascinating to me. It's interesting. That first episode hit on this. What's the next guy going to say? I've got to see the next episode.
Yeah, that's really good. And I'm sorry, I know I'm talking a lot, but I've got these ideas about this. And if we go back, Pam and John, historically, all the way back to those predetermined questions from the empathy interviews in our first year, if the idea is that the common thread that everybody gets asked something about why they got into education, or why special ed, or what was the most impactful memory they have from the last year, or something like that. That's something an audience, oh my God, what are they going to ask about? Like, it's so emotional, like it grabs them and pulls them in.
You're hitting on something, Evan, that like I know Pam and I, and even when Amy Rogers was still with us, and it was kind of like, well, it wasn't to this degree. I don't think it was as fleshed out and as effective as what we're discussing we want it to be, but it was, what is your one word? We would ask everyone, what is your word? And tell us about that word. Why is that word where you feel we are with special ed or with education in Texas right now, with all the change, with your initiative, with your story? What's your word? And we would go around and everyone would say their word, and they would talk a little bit about, why that word and why they felt that way. And so I think that fleshing that out even a little bit more and having, kind of, because in some ways that's always been the goal, is to tell the stories, not just the resources, but to tell the stories of those that are inside these organizations, these families, these schools, these agencies, because the more we humanize their stories, the more people want to tune in, and the more that we I think as podcasters are humanized in that process, and then people want to buy into like this ongoing evolution of our stories and how we kind of commingle these stories, and how, you know, Joe Hinojosa now is almost, you know, and another idea is having like a regular from the field, like, hey, you know, as often as possible, can we get like a, you know, someone that taps into our episodes and has, you know, a voice from the field, you know, in regardless of what our sessions are. We have these recurring, and so there's a lot of ideas that I'm getting, Evan, just from what you were saying.
You know, I want to say that I kind of looking back, listening to you guys talk, I was looking through the list of episodes, and when you look at Simon's, don't be afraid to be included. That was his, you know, don't be afraid to go out there and do something. When you look at Nikki Daniel, wherever she was talking about her boys and both of them having autism, and, you know, what's the message here? Don't give up on your child. You can love them, and you can have high expectations, and you can still want the best for them, even though they are going to do things differently. You know, same thing with Cheerabilities and Jasmine, and you know, her story of she wasn't involved in anything. She didn't want to have anything to do with anybody, but yet cheering brought out something in her that she wanted to be involved. So I think we've kind of stuck to that thread. It's just a matter of making it more obvious.
Yeah, I was going to say, asking a direct question, like making it something that's predictable.
Yeah, it's kind of like knowing your why.
Knowing your why.
Yeah.
You know, something like that.
Have the viewers come in and know our why when we start our season.
Yeah, but even asking the listener, you know, whoever we interview, what is your why? What is your why for doing it, you know, for doing this work? And that will lead down, you know, who knows where that road would lead. Because
I love the common thread language. I think that's what I was trying to say. Thank you, Evan. That's what I meant. You took what I meant. I let you have that.
I talk good. I mean, that's what I got. I talk good. I don't know about much else.
And then
keep talking, Evan. Keep talking.
The humanizing that John said, that's what's going to make this last. That's what's going to make people keep coming back. This is in real life. It's not the theory part. We're not talking about the big words and the pretties. We're talking about what really happened and how amazing it turns out because of the work that everyone does in education.
Yes.
Well, everybody wants to hear a story, a success story.
Yes.
You know, everybody wants to hear that, and everybody wants to hear the means to the end, you know, like, how did this happen, and what kept you going? And
that's right.
You know, that's inspiring. So if we can keep that.
Yeah, and you, Amy, you're spot on with that. And I think, and here's where I think something, I strongly believe this. I think the more we have, like the voice, the stories, the individuals, the perspectives of those here right now this morning in our episodes, the more you guys are willing to kind of become part of that larger Sped Talk table, that your voices are heard and your perspectives are shared. And I think it really does improve our show. I mean, I look at like this season and how some of the episodes that we've had, like the Corsicana and Penguin Project and the Texcan and Cheerabilities and and Evan, I think you helped us coin the phrase, like loving students doesn't lower expectations, right? And like,
we put that on a t-shirt. We need to put that on a mug. Like we have to like get those phrases out there and get them being said in the school system, because that'll be tied back to this podcast.
Yes.
I like that.
Yes. Don't be afraid to be included. Love, you know, and I see that. So one thing I'll tell you I'm excited about, and this is circling our buddy Joe Hinojosa from Burlington Center back in. I reached out to Joe because, you know, we're landing on a Sped Talk logo pretty soon. And when we get that logo we've decided is going to be our Sped Talk logo, and we start to, you know, trademark that and put it on stickers and t-shirts and then get them out into different venues and areas and at T-Case and at, you know, I mean, just have a push for that. I reached out to Joe at Burleson Center, and they have a full print shop, and said, hey, and I mean, this could be something that we don't sustain. I don't know, maybe cost prohibitive or something, but Joe wants to set up a meeting with those that are interested in being part of the meeting to talk about how they're all in. They want to produce, they want to, you know, and so for those of you that aren't familiar, down in San Antonio area, Edgewood ISD, Burleson Center for Innovation and Learning. And I think it's kind of evolved since then because A&M has kind of taken them in and made them even bigger than what they were. But they have a, fully operated programs for 18 plus students that run a print shop and so I'm hoping that he wants to have a planning meeting soon to discuss how hopefully we could get in business with them and they could do our prints for our t-shirts, our stickers, our whatever we want.
I love it. What's your one word? Tell me all those again. What's Evan's? I need to write them down.
What's that now? Can
you repeat Evan's phrase again? About
loving students doesn't lower expectations. And that was so much has come from this season because that was an episode this season that we did following Don't Be Afraid to Be Included.
Don't be afraid to be included. That was right after.
Loving students doesn't lower expectations. Yeah, I mean that just said it all.
Loving students.
Yeah, I got that.
Okay, so then the next one was don't be afraid to be included. Don't be afraid to be included.
And then what's your one word? I just think these are so catchy. Like you said, to put on a t-shirt, to put on a bumper sticker, to put on your coffee cup, for people to talk about what's your one word. What is SPEDTalk? And then, they do this cool thing where they go around and they'll ask you what, imagine them saying, I'm going to do that in my classroom.
Yeah.
I'm going to do that in my classroom, so it's just, we got to hook them.
Absolutely. And so I think the fact that don't be afraid to be included was worthy of being even recommended for a Barbara Jordan Media Award. To me, that alone was like, oh my gosh, you gotta be kidding me. And then the fact that, the governor's committee, listened to that episode and looked at our podcast and said, this is the kind of platform, this is the episode that we think is deserving of a 2021 Barbara Jordan Media Award. Nothing to do with me, nothing to do with Pam, everything to do with Connie and Cammie and Simon and the story and us elevating those positive examples. And so, I think it is just so exciting when I think into next season, the kind of stories we already have in the can, some of the stuff we've already recorded, much less the episodes we have coming up. Well, it's just so exciting, with
you, John, because you and Pam are the voices behind it. So yes, Connie forgetting the idea that it started there, but all the way through to scheduling it. If you don't make that good connection, they may not have come on. And then you all have to run that show in a way that they're comfortable expressing and sharing themselves and being vulnerable there. And then Evan's got to get a hold of that editing and make it look, it's everybody. That episode was like every single person. So I'm just saying I disagree with that part because y'all are very important.
And we did not pay Monica to say any of that.
Right, isn't that crazy? Yeah.
Because we have no budget.
No, this is just such good work. This is like a super fun collaborative group. It doesn't even feel like work when we come here. It's just fun.
Monica, you're right. And I think that's Pam and I wanted this always to be the positive, lighthearted, everyone has something to contribute, an idea. Anyone can do technical work and this, but it's the ideas, the connections. That's what's worth platinum. That's why SPEDTalk has not just fizzled on the vine and died off. It's because of the ideas and the connections that are being made through this. And so I think that in some ways is a positive contagion. People want to continue it, and everyone that comes on and gives of their time to contribute in an episode, I swear every time people go, this was so much fun, this was great. And so that's the goal, is that we create an experience really for people where they get to come on, tell their stories, be honored, be celebrated, and really be able to be vulnerable if they choose to be. And that we're going to make sure through, Evan, through the editing process, that we make everyone shine. Everyone's going to shine through this platform.
I've been a part of this now a year, it just blows my mind that a year has gone by so quickly. A year ago, I was just coming into liaison work and with you guys, but through the episodes that I've been a part of, I do have to say that everyone being involved, everyone has contributed something so unique, so different. everyone has been able to connect to the different topics in one way, shape, or form. And the one that really sticks out in my mind is when Evan was able to connect with Jasmine. In no way, because we were asking questions. I had sent some questions ahead of time. They had worked. And when I talked with Mom afterwards, she was like, we were ready. She was ready. She knew what she was going to say.
Yeah.
And we got on and we started recording, and it was like, nope, I'm done. I'm not going to talk. But then Evan found this magical way of connecting with Jasmine. And even though it was just a few words, he was able to get her to say something.
Amen.
And so, you know, things
Oh,
like
good.
that are so powerful, that are so amazing. I was like, wow, we tried everything. If Evan was able to connect with her.
Let's put that on a t-shirt. I talk good.
Sped talk. I talk good.
Here goes. Here goes.
That can be our catchphrase.
The Heckman charm.
I
No one
love
else
it.
gets in the talk.
Oh,
Evan
the
can.
Heckman charm. Shoot.
Yeah, don't put that on the t-shirt. Nobody needs that.
But Jennifer, you hit on something, that is that the contributions, like, they come in all these different shapes and sizes and forms, and that's something that going into next season we just want to capitalize on. There's Monica, Amy. There's no way we can accomplish the kind of things we want to accomplish through Sped Talk without y'all being engaged and involved, if you choose to do so, into next year. And so it's one of those things we're hoping that we can, work around people's schedules. We can schedule time for people to be on the recordings with us. We can, because it really is, we're better together. We are so much better as a group than we are as Pam and me. And so I think that's the magic and when it happens. And I think about some of the things coming up, like our season 1 drop. Episode 1 is going to be Jennifer Patterson, Justin Porter, talking liaison, the grant, historically looking back, the progress we've made thus far, where we're going in the future. And then really we just get to honor them for allowing this initiative to continue, that led to the Barbara Jordan Media Award, things like that. So being able to kind of release that and humanize, Jennifer and Justin. In special ed, a lot of people know who they are around the state. Everyone doesn't get to sit and have a conversation with them every day. So this is allowing a lot of people around the state to sit and kind of join the table and listen in on the conversation with them. And I think that's the point. And then jumping into some of these other upcoming episodes we have, I think that are just going to be really cool. I'm just super excited.
And one thing we've discussed, John and Jen and myself, was really kind of thinking about mini episodes. So they won't be as long as some of our other ones, but it might just be on a topic, and just be a few of us just discussing a topic, or someone might have someone at their ESC, at their service center, that has something going on, and they just want to share, or at a school district or a charter, just kind of think about, I'm kind of going back, circle back to what Monica said, looking at, we could have a common thread going that direction. So we're really looking at kind of expanding ourselves, but not overdoing it, not killing ourselves, but just opportunity for people just to jump on and talk with us. And so the interviews might not be long, or the discussions might not be long, but it might be something somebody just want to hear, just pick it up and say, hey, oh, wow, that was a fantastic idea. Oh, I need to contact that school. Or even just with us, just a Sped Talk group. That might be a subject area, that somebody want to discuss, and we'll just jump on and record it and then just shoot it out just as a mini episode.
Yeah.
I like that.
That's a good idea. Kind of like mini episodes in between the.
Yeah.
I like that.
Even if it could be that we have episodes that we kind of a couple little mini segments into one, like if there's a theme or a content that we do, and we can have little clips that build out into an episode. And two, I think Pam's idea was that it would be a way for us to really kind of flesh out some of these areas of expertise of some of us. If Amy, if you have a background in a certain area and we can highlight that a little bit through the conversations, and Jennifer and her background, and it allows us to just organically really have these conversations. Even Evan, from the perspective perspective, like I think about the conversations we could continue to have about his prior experience as a campus administrator, and then his evolution through the liaison role, and really perspective he's gained since, and just, you know, just great stories. And people are living these examples in real life right now, right? They're out there, they're working on the campus, they see themselves in these stories.
Okay, John, I'm going to interrupt you there because you just hit on something and an idea popped into my head with Amy, who's also been a campus administrator, and Evan. That right there in itself, I think, would be an episode that we could talk about, bringing up those thoughts that you just had, different perspectives, bringing that into the liaison world and how that's helped or how it's benefited or how, you know, the impact that it's had on the work as liaisons. I think.
But also, Jennifer, I think it'd be cool to show, like, I mean, if I knew what I had known now, then, you know, so inspire some administrators to get more involved in special education, know more about that ARD table and the decisions they're making. Great resources that we have that can, you know, I mean, it could be both sides.
Yes.
Like, how has it affected me now, and then, or us, or whoever, and then I don't know, you know what I mean? How would it maybe encourage others to know more? I don't know.
Yeah, to take that journey themselves, you know, to get to begin that process of, you know, so much, it's like that fear of the unknown, and you're like, oh my gosh, special ed, I don't even, you know, and as a campus administrator, there's so many fires and things to handle and manage, and you think, well, special ed, I've got a department, a whole program for that, you know, and I mean, I'm not saying, and I hate to generalize that from campus administrator, you know, perspective, but
you're right.
You have somebody else gonna do that one, huh?
Well, and special ed is scary. One strong move and you have an attorney on your campus. That doesn't happen in all those other departments, but it happens in SPED. And so for an admin who doesn't receive ample education going through your program in that is scary. And I see why they default and say, put it on the diag or put it on the special.
Monica, very good. Very good. Yeah.
And you know, it's funny because I came in not having the actual administrative experience. I come in very much from a serving, my head is still in serving. That's how I felt with my admin. I always felt like I was there to serve them. Like, what do you need from me? How do I remove any stress that you have? Like, let me find out, let me go know, let me take the hits in this way, you know, because
I babied us, Monica, and then we didn't know anything.
Well, no, I mean, I was blessed with amazing administrators. I had really strong ones, but I always felt like that was my role. Like it's my job to know it that deep, because you've got to know everything else. So, you know, so I still come in the liaison position. I notice, you know, as I'm working with admin, I still have that mindset of, I'm here to serve you. I'm here to serve you.
Okay. So Monica, you're giving me an idea, because it could be cool to show that relationship between the diag and the campus administrator, and how important that relationship is. Right. Not just, it's not one or the other. It's really how you complement each other and how you work together, and how
there cannot be an ego there 100% on either end, because you've got to play off each other. When you've got a tough situation and one that doesn't have an easy answer for multiple reasons, because you can't serve it on your campus, or because the parents not wanting, whatever the reason is, or the child is just very complex, you can't have an ego. The two of you have to pull those resources and figure out how together are we going to make sure that this child receives everything they're supposed to.
Yeah,
and that's within our means. So
absolutely,
I can't agree with that more. I think that is so spot on. I think that the idea is that, one, you have to have two experts in their areas that really are wanting to serve the best interests of that kid together collaboratively, and they want to build capacity in one another. I mean, that's the whole goal, is that, you know, because I'm doing, you know, if I'm a diagnostician, or if I'm a principal, and I'm doing 100% of my job and never building that capacity of why I'm doing and how I'm doing with the other, then I'm only doing half that job, you know. And so I think that's what I hear, is touching on the magic that happens when they get it right.
And that's the beauty of this group. You know, I listen a lot to y'all who have different experiences, and it reminds me, it takes me back to an experience I had on the campus, and I'm like, I understand even more now why that happened, why that was a no, why I got a kibosh on something, because sometimes we couldn't finish the conversation. It was just we're not going down that road. And I had to respect that. Sometimes I didn't understand. And so as I listen to you all speak, I understand more, because now I feel even in your world in a different way because I'm a liaison. So it's just opened up my eyes working with people with such varying backgrounds. But it's funny how we just pull and feed off of each other, and then we're able to grow ourselves now and then go out there and do the work we're supposed to, which is help those LEAs, be the best that they can be.
Yeah.
So I think we just talked about some potential future episodes. We've got a couple of others scheduled that coming in, with Northside ISD, the founder of Alcove, Shelby's Bridge. We've got several different episodes coming in for the future, and we've taken a look at what we've done in the past, and some great things have come from that. I'm excited for this season of Sped Talk coming up. I'm anxious to see what path we decide to follow and how we decide to move forward from here. And I think a big something that will be very defining for us is going to be once we decide and land and brand Sped Talk with our logo.
Yeah, I think so too. I think it'd be great for us to have a strategy for maybe T-Case, great ideas, 2022, February, January, whenever that flows out usually. If there was a way for us to have a presence there at T-Case with branded materials and be able to somehow kind of, and maybe have a, if it's not a actual session, maybe have like a table or something set up or some kind of, I don't know. I just think that it'd be a great idea for us to really network and connect with lots of people that we all know from around the state that we see at these conferences, but as well as make new contacts and be able to kind of share. So those are just a few ideas. I mean, I get, Jennifer, you said you're excited, I stay excited about this stuff. And so, but I think about like Alcove and Shelby's Bridge and like the stories we're going to learn about through those episodes. And the fact that we have another Barbara Jordan Media Award story coming on to Sped Talk in a future episode. Is it Northside ISD down there?
Northside ISD.
Yeah. And so like just to be able to kind of, that's a story that's already been elevated through the local medias and such to the point where that story and those media outlets won a Barbara Jordan Media Award this year for that. But that now we're getting to continue to elevate that awesome work of the coach that's learning sign language to make sure the students on the field and off the field are being successful. Like that's the magic of Sped Talk, that we just get to highlight and elevate those types of stories and examples for others to hear.
Right.
And one thing I'd like to say is that for the episode with Kami and Simon, one of Simon's goal was to have a swing for people in wheelchairs. Well, he completed that task, I think, last week. They've gotten it built. It's been put in the city park, and they tested it with the young lady that he was inspired by to create the swing. So he got it done, and that was so. He did.
That's why we
so
do what we
impressive,
do, isn't it?
Yes, because he stuck to the project. He got some help, to finalize the design of it. And on Facebook, Kami posted the picture of him and then the young lady in the swing, and he followed through. So that's a story. That's a heartfelt story. That's when you believe in the impossibilities. That's when you look at a young person's dedication to a project and not giving up on it. So it was just exciting. For me, it was just exciting to see, and just to see him there with the workers overseeing the project.
That was super cool.
Yeah.
That was super cool.
Like, this is mine. This is mine. Okay. I'm here.
There's no stopping Simon. There is no stopping Simon. That guy, he's going to lap all of us. That's all I can say. That guy has got it figured out, and he is definitely not a person to get knocked down and stay down. So,
and with him becoming a Special Olympic global messenger, he's going to be traveling all over the world for unified sports. And so you think about this. This is a young person from Brady, Texas, who really did not engage a lot with people until you know, he became his teacher. And to be hooked into unified sports and the programs that they have, and to become a global messenger, this is a big deal. I mean, you know,
because of one relationship with one teacher.
Right.
One teacher. I bet we all have an educator in our past.
I was thinking of questions and I wrote down, how does your teacher-student relationship still impact your life today? You know, all of us have that relationship, and even from parent to teacher with our child, you know. So how have you carried that relationship into your adulthood? Like, what do you remember back? How do you still connect to that it still shapes you and feeds you and fuels you and causes you to make certain decisions today, or inspire you or get you through hard times? Like, what was that one teacher that just told you could, and so even when you think you can't right now?
It's huge. You just hit it. Like, I think that could be a theme right there, a common thread. Who was your one? Who was your educator? Who can you think of, that person that you think back to that really saw something in you didn't see, and not until they saw it did you say, well, maybe I could do something important? Well, this has been a great conversation, guys.
Yeah, that's one thing I was going to say, is that the beauty of this project is, although there's three of us, well, some of you have already met John and been in the room with him, but I have not been with Anna or Jen or Amy or Monica, is that even in spite of not having the face-to-face time, being able to sit up on Zoom and carry on conversations has been a blessing. Is that everybody is committed to this thing we call special education. John, tell everyone how they can continue to elevate the conversation about special education in Texas.
You got it, Pam. They can find us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at SPEDTalk 2020. Because in these disconnected times, connecting with others has never been so important. Now more than ever, it takes courage to create culture and kindness to keep us connected.
If you enjoyed this episode of Sped Talk, be sure to share it with a friend, because information should always flow through us, not to us. We couldn't do this without you, our listeners, and we need your help sharing the amazing transformation occurring in special education. Together, we can change the trajectory of learning opportunities in Texas for students with disabilities. If you have ideas, information, or resources that you think we should share on an upcoming episode of Sped Talk, let us know at SPEDTalk 2020 on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. And be sure to like our page while you're there. Oh yeah, and if you get a chance, please consider giving us a positive review on the podcast platform that you listen to Sped Talk.
Living in the moment, and the moment is the future.